Yo, what's up, everybody, man? Yo, playoff weekends here, man. It was lit. There was some good games going on. There was some great games going on this weekend, man. I wanted to tap in real quick to say what's up to everybody, man. Yo, to all the coaches that went above and beyond to give me my flowers, man. Thank you very much, man. It was a pleasure to be part this football season, but it's not a lot of football going on. But I want to talk about today is Maxprepps. I want to talk about Maxprepps, the injury fund game, stats. Should coaches be putting their stats in from the injury fund game this season? That is a big topic after this weekend's games. Should coaches be using injury fund game stats for this season? I talked to my guy over there at Rhode Island Ranked, Felix Fernandez, who uses Maxprepps religiously to help pick his top three. And Felix says that if a team and players play that game, then they should get credit for them stats. Now, I noticed a lot of teams did not put stats up for that injury fund game, but what's the question here? Leave a comment, definitely, if you want to come in. The link, I think, is on Facebook somewhere. Tap the link. You'll come into the green room, and you can actually give your opinion because, these kids are playing these games. Should the injury fund – and it's just the injury fund game. Should the consolation game stats, should they be put in? All right, here we go. No. He says, no, teams should not be using stats from the injury fund game. I mean, there's a whole bunch of teams that did, and I got to say, salute to Coventry High School. Coventry High School removed their injury fund stats, and they had some good numbers for that game, playing a Division I team. Here we go. Stats are stats. What about out-of-state games? No, facts. You played them games, and for the out-of-state teams, why not? They played the games, but we're pretty much talking about the injury fund game. I mean, the out-of-state games is part of your regular season, so facts. You should get credit for them games. But let me hear some input. This is actually going to become a big, a lot of people are talking about this. How about the teams that don't put stats up on Maxprepps? Shout out to Situate High School this week. They started adding their stats to Maxprepps a few weeks ago. And look, Rhode Island Ranked have one of their players up in the top three. So these kids definitely benefit from Maxprepps. But I like to hear from injury fund games. Should stats be used? Should teams be using stats? Injury fund game goes overall, but not the regular season. I found about 9 teams. I started looking up on, let me get this up in here. Hold on one second. My guy says, yes, you should. So you're saying you should be using injury fund game stats. Awesome. My guy, Josh Brennan, and check him out. Another guy that I advocate should be in the Central Falls Hall of Fame. So I hope they do what's going on. But if we take a look right here, let's just take a look and see what teams are using the injury fund stats and what team is not. So let me get up in here. All right at the top, I put in the total yards, and that'll just bring me to the page with all the stats, and then I can pick per game. So bear with me. All right, here we go. We're going to look stats by game. Okay, here we go. We're going to look at they don't even have a September 3rd game, which they didn't play a September 3rd game, so there is no stats there for that team. Okay, but, all right, so we're going to go to Classical, and let's see if Classical used stats from the injury fund game. Okay, here we go. Stats by, all right, 9-4. They beat Hope 41-7. So let's see what Classical stats they used for this game. All right, here we go. Jalen Dennis, 94 yards. What else for this? You had 84 yards passing that you recorded for Maxprep. So Classical is using their stats from Maxprep. Elijah Nyakun, 70. He had a 37 yards. receiving 79 yards for classical, another 244 all-purpose yards. They also recorded 14 tackles. But, here's the issue. Here's the issue right here. Teams are using some of these stats. Okay, good. I thought that was going to lose me for a minute. Teams are using some of these stats, and some teams are not. Now, let's go over to Mount Pleasant, which played Central for that injury fund game. Stat by games. Okay, they didn't. Yeah, see, Mount Pleasant didn't record any stats until 9/17. So Mount Pleasant is not using stats from the injury fund game. Let me see if there's any comments up here. Not yet. Everyone dropped off. I guess nobody wanted to talk about, should we be using stats from the injury fund game on Maxprepps? If you want to come in and talk about it, hit the link. It's up there on Facebook. Let me get back here to the page I wanted to be on. All right, let's go check out the next team on the list. St. Ray's. Let's see if St. Ray's are using injury fund stats or are they not using injury fund stats. And when we go to stats game by game, nope, their first game started on September 11th. And they definitely had an injury fund game against NK, but St. Ray's are not using injury fund game stats. Now let's see if Cumberland High School, which I would bet my behind that they're using stats from, I guarantee Cumberland is using stats from the injury fund game. Here we go. They won. They beat Lincoln, right? They beat Lincoln. September 3rd. Okay, here we go. Passing. Lincoln recorded 31 yards. Rushing, 248 yards. So as an overall team, Cumberland is up on St. Ray's as far as rushing. They have stats that these other teams don't. So either we all use the injury fund game stats or we don't. Do you see how it's not really fair when some teams don't put the stats in for these games? Some say the injury fund game was not part of the regular season. Now, Cumberland has 31 yards receiving, all-purpose yards, 287 yards, 279 total yards, and a total of 52 team tackles that are going towards Cumberland's defense because they did use stats from the injury fund game. Are we surprised? No. What other team do we have on the list? I think PCD, Classical, Mount Hope all used stats from the injury fund game. Let's check Portsmouth. Stats by game. Okay, Portsmouth did not use the injury fund game, whether they played that game or not. Okay, EWG. Let's see if my guy, Coach Fortin, see, he's not immune from prosecution. He can get it too. Where are we? Up, stats for his game. We didn't have a game to the 18th. So a lot of teams did not use stats from the injury fund game. And some teams did. West Warwick. Now I talked to the the guy that does the stats for West Warwick High School, and I said, and I asked his opinion about it, and what he said, he'll probably comment on this a little bit later. I think he was tied up right now, but what he said was that them kids played the game, so he did put the stats in. Now he brought up another question: the consolation games. Should the stats be counted on the consolation games? Let me know. Put it in the comment section. Again, hit the link. I think I put the link on Facebook. Come in and let me know your opinion without you going too too crazy. You look at West Warwick, and I rock with West Warwick. Salute to them. 144 yards passing from the injury fund game, 241 yards rushing. DeAndre Chase, 152 yards for that game. Should them be counted? West Warwick does use stats from the injury fund game. But if we're all going to use them, then we all use the stats from the injury fund game, and I have to, nobody's immune from this. I mean, we have to get down and figure out who's going to use this. If we're all going to use the stats, then let's all use the stats from the injury fund game. But let me know what you think. Should we be using stats? I'm actually gonna type it right now and put it in a banner. Hang on. Okay, should we use stat? I know I spelled that wrong. Let me fix that before people start saying I'm a moron. Okay, there we go. Should we use stats from the injury fund game? Is really what we're talking about today. I put the question out there. I didn't actually put the question out there. It actually came to me, and coaches are kind of ripen about teams that are using stats from the injury fund game. Central High School played Mount Pleasant. And I know Coach Addison was one of the coaches that was really, that said, is it right that this is going on? That wasn't what I was looking for. Let me get back here. Okay, here we go. Stats by game. Come on. The Knights won that game 35-0. Central had 80 yards passing, 212 yards rushing. So Central did use stats from the injury fund game on 292 overall. So some teams did not use stats from the injury fund game. Some schools did use stats from the injury fund game. So should schools be using stats from the injury fund game was pretty much the question here. And I wasn't trying to call anybody out, not at all. But we really have to figure out: are we going to use stats from that game? Are we not going to use stats from that game? Should stats from the consolation game be used? But we'll be back to talk about this in a little bit. What do you think? Should teams be using stats from the injury fund game? Give me a minute. I'm gonna put a football game on you. I gotta go help my wife carry some groceries, but just give me 1 minute. How about I put the LaSalle game up? I'm coming, babe. I'll put the LaSalle game up for you guys to check out till I come right back. LaSalle SK last night's game. And we'll talk about a little of this. Should we be using injury fund stats? Injury fund stats. But right now, I'm going to leave you with the SK LaSalle game from last night. Think about it, and if you have something you want to say about this, definitely let me know. I'll be right back in 5 minutes. So what's up, everybody, man? Earlier before I had to go help my wife carry some groceries in. Um, I asked a question about stats in the injury fund game. Should we be using stats on Maxprepps to count towards total stats for the season during the injury fund game? I'll put some of the comments up on the screen. We did have some comments earlier. Coach Eddie Insko said no. Someone else said stats are stats. What about out of state games? Now, that mostly came from somebody from the LaSalle and Hendricken side, but they were regular season games. So, yes, you should use them stats. Another comment said injury fund goes overall, but not regular season. Very interesting. Josh Brennan said, yes, we should be using stats from the injury fund game. Let me know your comment. Let me know what you think. Should stats be used on these injury fund games? Classico had stats for the injury fund game. They had 94 yards passing, 84 yards rushing, 79 yards receiving, and 242 yards all purpose came out of the injury fund game. PCD, Juanita Sanchez had 204 yards rushing, 18 reception yards, 204 all purpose yards. Now, they would not necessarily have these yards. So, now what about the consolation games that's being played last weekend, this weekend? What about them games? Should stats for them games be used? That's the question. I couldn't find any stats per game from Johnston High School, but Mount Hope, 106 yards, 209 yards rushing, 120 yards receiving, 339 all-purpose yards. So that's basically, here we go. Thought it was necessary this year. Injury fund was a full game opposed to half a game for us. We didn't have a non-league game and a game missed because of COVID. No way I'm going to not count a full game of stats with a year of uncertainty. Salute to Coach Washington. And I'm glad they're getting involved in the comments about this, because I think this is something, because a lot of people are really raising a lot of smoke about it. Um, a lot of people are raising smoke about it. So, and I just thought it was a good question. And I didn't mean to throw any teams under the bus about who's not using stats, who is. Coventry Oakers, I noticed they recently took their stats down. Um, but if we're going to use the injury fund stats, then all coaches should go back in and add the stats for the injury fund game. Let me get back on Maxprepps. There's something I wanted to show you about a couple of these teams. So let me stop this. Let me get, shout out to Coach Washington. That's a very interesting what he had to say. Thought it was necessary because it was a full game. And that's what Felix said, that does stats for West Warwick. They had 144 yards passing, 241 yards rushing, 115 yards receiving for West Warwick. And Felix said, he's a statistician over there at West Warwick. He said, well, the kids played the game. It was a full game. So my opinion, yes, the stats should go. If it's the regular season, stats should definitely be used. Let me throw this back up there, see if I still have it. Okay, here we go. Now, where was I heading? Here we go, Coventry. Coventry did have the stats, and it ain't nobody's fault. I mean, last season, Coventry had a big ripe. Now, look at this. You can see the screen. Look at that. All zeros. All zeros, Coventry. They went back in and they removed their stats from the injury fund game. Now, should we? I told him that other team, and shout out to Coach Goodhart. He said, I don't need no smoke, but I took my stats down. Now, if we either got to have every team using their stats for Maxprepps to put them up, or every team take them down. You can't have half the teams put them up, half the teams don't. And not only that, like, forget the injury fund. How about all the coaches that don't take the time and put stats in? Can't you give that to an assistant coach, delegate somebody to do it, and I know a lot of people have been advocating against Maxprepps. I mean, I'm no surprise in Cumberland. They gained an extra 248 yards using the injury fund game. So should the injury fund game stats be used, or should they not be used? Coach Washington said he thought it was necessary. He said it being a full game, opposed to in the past it wasn't a full game. So here's the question. Injury fund game. Do we use the stats? Do we don't? If everybody posts them, or everybody don't post them? You can't have, come on, like, for a league, can't we all just do the right thing and just follow the guidelines? Some people have an agenda against Maxprepps. I don't know why. Let me get back up in here on his Maxprepps page. So we're gonna look. What team was this? All right, yeah, Coventry. So we already know that Coventry took their stats out, and they had some good numbers for that game. But he took them out. You know what I mean? He said, it is what it is. I'm gonna remove the stats, and and I basically told him as well, like, if other teams are gonna remove them, if other teams are gonna have them, then you have them. Pilgrim, another school that does not have injury fund stats. Salute to Coach Blake. He said, there's not a shot in hell that I'm putting my stats up there. He said, there's not a shot in hell that he's putting his stats up there, against EG. Now, EG, on the other hand, did put stats up on Maxprepps. The other thing I like to look at is, like EG, say Pilgrim and Tolman played that game. I like to see Tolman stats compared to Pilgrim stats, see if they're similar. Just to throw them two schools. I wasn't even trying to call them out. But let's see what Coach Washington was talking about. He said a full game. We got to keep the stats because basically it's a full game. He wasn't going to take a chance. I know a lot of people have been suspect about classical stats. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it real. I ain't even gonna I'm not even gonna front. You know what I mean? If they're saying shit about classical stats, I'm gonna say that. That's what they're saying. They're saying if you look at these games, classical had more. They posted more stats than they really had. Did they? I don't know. It's just an opinion. All right, so salute to Coach Washington too. You know, up against the hill over there at Central, doing good things. You know, he had 80 yards. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
He had 80 yards of passing, 212 rushing, and he makes a good point. And I'm not here to take anyone's side. I'm just here to say, should we use stats from the injury fund game? I mean, the game is definitely evolving. People say, what's the benefit of posting stats? Well, you remember Freddie Malay, you know where he's playing, right? Yep. A nice Ivy League school, you know, and it helped that we had Willie Edwards in our backyard. But it also helped that he was Maxprepps player of the game multiple times, you know, and I see a lot of kids from when you post to Maxprepps, they make the all New England, you know, all New England teams, you know, like there's nothing wrong with posting the stats to Maxprepps. Someone said, I thought you hate the Interscholastic League. I said, well, hate's a strong word. I don't hate them. Maybe I dislike things that they do. And why, if I contribute to Maxprepps, am I being negative towards the Interscholastic League? Like, I want the Interscholastic League to do good. I want everyone to do good. Just like when, just like when I have to put my son in his place, right? When I got to put my son in his place, I want him to do better. And let me tell you, Eric Rube, salute, did a great job. Not great. Okay, I'm sorry. That's too many greats. Eric Rube did a great job this season in the Providence Journal. We're going to call him cease and desist Eric, but because I was on his heels, he did a better job. The Journal gives him an extra reporter because he's struggling. Whatever we can do to elevate the game, we have to do at any expense. So, let's see who else on this list. Let's see. Let's see. Central Falls stats by game. Nobody is immune from prosecution. Central Falls didn't even have an injury fund game. Salute to them. That's another school that is a constant uphill battle. What's another school that we could look at? Who is? Let's see. Them yards. Let's check. What do you want to see next? Touchdowns? Total touchdowns? But I just figured total yards, go down the list, see what school had total yards since we were talking about Maxprepps. And no, Maxprepps does not pay me. They should. How come we not surprised to see Westerly at the top of a lot of these categories? So we're gonna look at some stats. I was supposed to send Emerson Kilgore a request. Maybe somebody can tag Emerson. But we're going to look at total touchdowns for some of these. No, because most were out of conference. Like, yeah, don't send me a private messenger message, man. Like, if you want to comment on something that I'm doing, keep it real, man. Like, comment on the page. Don't send me a private message. Like, seriously, man. So I had a coach question me and say, consolation games. Do we keep stats to consolation games? And the statistician for West Warwick says, absolutely. The kids play the game, right? Yeah, but it's not really the regular season. And definitely you can watch this live on Twitter right now. I can't see who goes on Twitter and watches it, but I know it does stream on Twitter. It also streams on Fans Only Sports. Big shout out to Fans Only Sports. the championship trophies that we're going to present this year. That's getting situated right now. Salute to the people that already stepped up, made donations. We're going to give each Super Bowl winning team a championship trophy by Can We Keep It Real Sports and our supporters. So thank you to the people that's helping contribute. But I had a question earlier. We were saying, should we use stats from injury fund games? Definitely leave a comment, and we will talk about your comment. We're also on Facebook. Big shout out to Emerson Kilgore, 401 Strength and Fitness. Let me take this time to thank the people that make this possible. Coldwell Banker, Coastal Homes. You're looking to buy a home, give Mark Wright a call today. 401-787-5203. R&R Elite Recruits. Join the R&R team today. Definitely give them a call, and they'll get you situated, especially if you're looking to move on to college. Tuesday night, we got my man Wayne Matthews and his Voice Sports Network. Man, we're producing shows now, so you're going to see a lot more content coming from Can We Keep Real Podcast. Thursday night, Uncle Felix, man, Rhode Island ranked. I asked Uncle Felix if he was going to continue the Rhode Island ranked through baseball season, and he said, I need a rest. This has been a lot of work, but check out Rhode Island ranked predictions with Uncle Felix on Thursday nights right here on Can We Keep It Real Podcast. And I'm just curious, should Burger King be paying me some money? Look at that. Keep it real meals. That's what's up. But let's get back into this. We were talking earlier about Maxprepps and consolation games, as well as the injury fund game. Should teams be keeping stats? Wesley definitely leading up there in touchdowns right now. Classical just 2 touchdowns behind them. And another, what do we do? We keep stats all the way going through up to the Super Bowl. Classical with 38, St. Ray's with 37 touchdowns, Johnson with 34, and Pilgrim and Mount Pleasant tied for 29 touchdowns apiece. How do you do that tiebreaker? Do you see the longest? Let me see. One was for 10 and one was for 12. So does Mount Pleasant be ranked above Pilgrim in that top 5, top 6 spot? So let's see. What's the next stat? What else you guys want to see? Let's see. You want to see rushing yards. Let's see who rushed for the most yards in the state. And if it ain't Maxprepps, it can't exist. If your coach is not putting you guys up on Maxprepps, then your coach is the reason. Your coach should be putting you up on Maxprepps. And I know there's a lot of coaches right now that are going to all up in their feelings over that, what I just said, but it's only facts. The number 1 Russian team this season was St. Ray's, followed by Westerly. Cumberland. Now, we can also look at these games and say that we could say, well, Cumberland did have, what did they have? I got it right here. Cumberland did have an extra 248 yards rushing. So you take Cumberland's number, 1,870 yards. You minus the 248 yards. That's if you consider the injury fund game counted. But not all programs added the injury fund stats. Some programs thought it wasn't right. We cannot add injury fund stats. What is your opinion? Let me know in the comment section. Whatever you do, don't send me an inbox. Just let me know in the comment section. And the other question is the consolation games. Do we count them stats? That's a very, very good question. Do we count this constellation games stats? But let's get back over here and have a look at this. All right, we already know Wesley 1,934 yards. We already know Zach Tuck broke the 1,000-yard mark before the regular season ended. So salute to Zach Tuck. 1,000 yards on the season. Wesley has 1,000-yard passing on the season. Coach Dunbar doing good things up in Bulldog country. We talked about Cumberland. So with Cumberland, do we minus 250 yards? Because they used injury fund yards. EWG did not because they, poor team, they didn't even have a game for a couple weeks. No fault of their own. Mount Pleasant did not. West Warwick did. Central did. Bishop Andrews Bishop Andrews did not. Swallowed some coffee. Went down the wrong tube. Really went down the wrong tube. Excuse me. All right, let's get back to this. Coventry 1,352 yards. Mount Pleasant in 7th. West Warwick in 8th. Central in 9th. Bishop Hendrick in 10th. Mount Hope. You can kind of see who does stats on Maxprepps, and you can kind of see who don't. Well, let's get into the next category, receiving yards. What team had the best receiving yards? Let's see. Classical, of course, with 2,119. And if you want to say, okay, Classical, they used, the injury fund game as stats. So receiving yards, you will just knock off, I think, 79 yards to the 2,000. They're still the leading team in the state. Johnston behind them. Johnston, 192.9 yards per game. So you can kind of see here, 9 games. See, Wesley has a 9, but no, that's I know they didn't put stats in for their injury fund game. Look at EG, 10 games. Oh, okay, no, it was not. All right, look at EG, 10 games. West Warwick on 9, Bishop Hendricken, but maybe with the playoff game, it actually was 10 games, but any other stats that you guys put in the comment section? What stats you want to see? What team stats you want to see? Let me know. But it was a good question. Should we use stats from the injury fund game? I'm a big Maxprepps guy, and I think it has nothing to do with RIIL. My disdain for RIIL has nothing to do, and I don't even dislike them. I dislike what they actually do, what they stand for. All right, we're going to go to, how about defense? Let's see what the best teams in Rhode Island football are right now in tackles. EG, with 638 tackles. But now you also got to go back and look at EG, what they had. I'll tell you right now. Give me 1 second. Possibly. Let me see if I can find this. EG. Here we go. EG. Stats by game. On the 3rd, see, EG is using stats from that game, but Pilgrim's not. They got by player. They got team stats. EG, 178 passing attempts, 1,071 yards. Rushing, 452 yards. So we know EG was not a Russian team this season. That's for sure. Let's go back now, right? Let me go back. Let's take a look at The tournaments. Hang on. Let me get this out of here. There we go. You can see that. You can see that fine. Davies beating Tiverton, but that really did not do a whole lot. I mean, for Davies. I mean, EWG still held on to that sixth seed. Oh, where was I? There we go. EWG holds on to that sixth seed. You know, the Cranston East West Warwick game, that was a consolation game. That game ended 49-27 in favor of Cranston East. EWG Hope High School, they had a very interesting game. EWG comes out of that one 34-14 in garbage time. Hope scores some points. Central High over East Providence. Now, let me tell you, that game surprised me. I did not think East Providence was going to be able to keep up with Central. That was a 14-6 game. And shout out to the East Providence coaching staff because they was able to figure out, get it done. Narragansett High School had like 8 starters out with COVID. They still showed up, but I heard the Central Falls team played with so much heart, so much dignity, integrity, put 14 points up on the board. That's big playing a juggernaut like Narragansett. North Providence High School and Scituate. A lot of people did pick Scituate going into this game. Yeah. They picked Scituate going into this game, and it just Scituate's still young right now. Scituate is very very young, and they just have a few things to work on, But I'm sure the upcoming season is going to be very very good for Scituate. And speaking of Scituate, big shout out to the sponsors of the Scituate Spartans football community stepped up, sponsored the show. So big shout out to them as well. Let me get back to the scoreboard over here. So that game ended 28-0. There may be another consolation game, not sure. St. Ray's over Moses Brown 42-14. That Division 2B, and I said it yesterday quite a few times, that Division 2B is representing Division 2 semis. Who do you have? Who do you don't have? I mean, it's going to be an interesting week coming up for playoff football. The Burrillville Broncos won Socket Villanova's. That game is going on right now. Drop a score if you have the score for that game. Juanita Sanchez, man, turned it on this season. I'm not even going to lie. Beat Smithfield 20-6. Yes, I did pick Juanita Sanchez over Smithfield. The reason being, Smithfield really has not had a chance to play anybody this season. Respectfully, the teams that they played, Smithfield should have won. They struggled against Hope. They figured it out in the end. They were able to get it done. So Smithfield really, and they dropped down in the seeding big time. So far, I think Juanita Sanchez picks up the bye in that game. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not backed by a machine. I don't know everything. I don't even pretend to know everything. But I think at the end of the day, Juanita Sanchez playing good football, and you could see them against Pontiac. But anything can happen. Johnston High School, Middletown, close game last week. It ended, I think, 26-25. Maybe it was a 1-point game. And then they meet again, and it was another very, very close game. Johnston coming out of the Super Bowl last season. They beat Middletown 22-20, so Johnston will move on into the next round of the playoffs. I think I may have covered all the teams at that point. Now let's go into the tournament information right now. Let me make sure this is moving with me. It might not be. Yes, it might be. All right, let's see. Nope. Damn it. Let me see why it's not. All right, hold on, people. Let me get this up in here. There we go. There we go. Well, we know Bishop Hendricken beat NK a couple nights ago, by a score of 30-14. NK was thrashing everybody in Division One. They came against LaSalle. I said, it's going to be a good test for NK. NK playing very good football in D1. They struggled against St. Ray's. I mean, that's a fact. And they're another team that does not put stats up on Maxprepps. If so, it would show. You never see NK guys in the top of any rankings. It's always the same. It's always the Cumberland, the St. Ray's, the Portsmouth, the Coventry, Mount Pleasant, West Warwick even gets in the mix. But give me 1 second. Let me move this down here. Rhode Island, here we go. But yeah, so when NK went against LaSalle, I was like, this is actually a good test for NK that finished overall, 6-3? In the league, 5-1. Now, if you look at the points NK scored for and against, I think it was like a 20-point differential. I want to say it was like 184 and like 165. NK scored 184. Here it is. Yup. NK scored 184 and they allowed 166. So then they go against LaSalle, and it kind of shows you what NK is right now. But NK makes it that number 2 seed, so they obviously pretty good, right? They must be. They go against Hendricken. Hendricken I had for the last couple weeks the third best team in football right now. You had to have LaSalle at the top. And we'll get into the LaSalle SK game in a minute, which I actually streamed some of that game, Fair Use Law. So go check that out. It's on the podcast page. You can watch part of that game. I also streamed the fourth quarter of the Barrington game. But yeah, so the NK get beat by Bishop Hendricken 30-14. NK moves down into the bracket, and they wait for the winner of 3-6. Now, on the other side, you had SK and LaSalle. Last night, they went at it. LaSalle is just too powerful right now. Salute to SK, but SK moves down into the bracket, and the same thing as NK. They'll await of the winners of 3-6. Let me move down 1 second. Here we go. Okay, Central, East Providence. Like I said earlier, East Providence, salute to them. Salute to East Providence for being able to keep up with Central. Central comes out of that game 14-6. Salute to Coach Washington. Burrillville and Socket going on right now. The winner of that game, which it might even be over, let me know in the comment section. But the winner of that game is going to play Central. Portsmouth and Shea, Shea's struggling with numbers. Shea probably had the worst numbers that they had in a couple of seasons. I mentioned before that maybe Pawtucket should have one football program. One football high school Shea should have. Shea plays Portsmouth. Portsmouth does what Portsmouth does. Portsmouth moves on. Cumberland and EG, no surprise there. No surprise at all. Cumberland, another team that uses their injury fund stats. EG, Cumberland put the Dr. Dre beats on EG. Like, for real. They beat them 33-0. So it's going to come down to Cumberland. Yeah, Cumberland. Portsmouth and Cumberland. We already know the outcome of that game. I think Cumberland needs, get ready, play your last game of football. I say that respectfully. And the same thing, whoever wins the Burrillville and soccer game. Both of them teams, Central is going to move on. Portsmouth is also going to move on. Portsmouth will end up playing NK, and you'll see Central playing SK. You watch, that will happen. I'll say it right now. And if you disagree or you agree, let me know. Jump up in that comment section. But you're going to see Central beat the winner of their next game, the Burrillville and soccer game. You're going to see Portsmouth beat Cumberland. Now you look at Division Two, huh? Division Two had a lot of smoke. That was very competitive division this year, as it was in the last couple of years. Remember when Coach Dunbar was at Coventry? That was a competitive division. You had Burrillville won soccer, Wesley with that single wing, EG Avengers. They had a great quarterback. Swanson, I want to say his name was. So many good players, man. Willie Turner over there at Coventry. The Charo kid up there at Burrillville. So many great players were in that Division Two that year. So it's always been pretty competitive. The Mount Pleasant Tolman game, you could look back. I said Tolman came on strong. After watching them in the earlier season game and seeing how competitive they were in the beginning of the game, and after I hear another head coach say nobody has beat Tolman all 4 quarters this season, and you stop paying attention what Tolman's doing, Tolman beats Rogers, Tolman beats Mount Hope, so Tolman beats Mount Pleasant as well, 20-6. Catch that game on Fans Only Sports. And then you had the classical Coventry game. A lot of people thought this was going to be a rematch from Week 7, or was it Week 8? A lot of people thought it was going to be a rematch. Kind of what happened where Costco wins that game 52 to 12 maybe. Coventry didn't hold a chance in that game. And check out the interview with Coach Gary Goodhart giving Coach McCall all the respect in the world. Really picking him up that game, and Coventry did. They got beat on all aspects of that game. Westerly Barrington game. Barrington played like their life depended on it the first quarter. They're up before you know it, 21-7. And you're looking and you're like, wow. And then you see Coach Najee Barrows, and salute to Coach Najee Barrows. That guy is so enthusiastic. And somebody had told me that the Barrington coach was so butthurt that he was getting mad when his players went to shake Coach Najee's hand. Is that crazy? Like, Najee is just an energetic person, and every team should have a Najee Barrows, man. Every team should have, and I'm no cap, because you see how much excitement them kids, they believe into him. His energy believes, and the kids absorb it, and for a coach at Barrington to be salty and not let his players shake another coach's hand after losing a game. Well, to me, that's just bottom of the barrel. That's bottom of the barrel stuff, and I totally forgot about that, and I wasn't even gonna talk about that, but that kind of burns me up. That's horrible. Moses Brown and St. Ray's, that game went the way many thought it was gonna go. St. Ray's over Moses Brown 42-14. Now it's going to come down to Westerly and St. Raphael's Academy. That's going to be lit. This game will be the third time these two teams meet in the last year. So the Tolman Costco game is too early to call this game just yet. We'll definitely save that for Thursday's show. with Coach Dunbar. Division One, I was willing to go on the limb, but this is I got to pay attention to this a little bit more. The Westerly St. Ray's. Let me see. Hang on. Let me get over to our next. Narragansett, Central Falls. 8 kids on Narragansett had COVID. Didn't play. 8 starters did not play. They still showed up, played the game. 41-15. I don't know if they played the game because there was different rules. If you don't play, is it a forfeit at that? But that ain't what happened. Narragansett beat Central Falls. They move on. Johnson and Middletown, close game, 2-point game. Remember last week? Johnson, Middletown right there, 1-point game. Johnston was able to pull it out. They'll go against Narragansett. And I think I can safely say now that Narragansett moves on to the Division III championship. North Smithfield and Charahoe. North Smithfield played their hearts out. Salute to Coach Piva. Really, really good. Wes Pennington said he would have been a great, great coach for the North Smithfield job. School Athletic Director Tech agreed. They had this season. They need to go to Division 4, and I'm hearing some rumblings that North Smithfield will be in Division 4 next season, but they can't get it done against Charahoe. Charahoe ends up over that game 28-14. Tollgate and Pilgrim, man. Pilgrim really showed up. I kind of made a joke that Division 3, everybody makes the playoffs, but there's nowhere to sit. Pilgrim, you had a classical soccer dad go to a game at Vets, took a tape measure out, measured the damn stadium, the damn seating, reported that it was a code violation from 30 years ago. So Pilgrim senior night, senior game, whatever, they couldn't sit in the bleachers. Seriously, a big rival game like that, Tollgate, Pilgrim. Well, Pilgrim wins that one 51-0. The pyrotechnics and everything. Coach Blake goes above and beyond. So you're going to have Narragansett and Johnston, Charahoe and Pilgrim. And I could call this one. I see Pilgrim and Narragansett meeting in the Division III championship. So we all know Pontiac gets the bye. They don't have a game until the weekend of the 19th and 20th. North Providence against Davies. North Providence winning their game. Yesterday, Davies beating Tiverton. North Providence getting the 4, Davies with the 5. The next game was going to be EWG and Smithfield. EWG beating Hope. Smithfield getting beat badly, dropping down to a 3 by PCD. That's gonna be game 3. That'll be a 3 seed hosting the 6. And the winner of that is going to play PCD, which they've been playing good football. And the winner of the North Providence Davies game will play Pontiac on the 19th. So that's pretty much it, man. We rambled on for about an hour. But, yeah, earlier we just had the question about the Maxprepps stuff, what do you think about that? The consolation games, too. Should the consolation games be counted for stats? Let me know so I can pass it on because, believe it or not, I'm being asked by the head coaches, So it's crazy when they got to call the podcast guy to find out what's really going on. But salute to everybody. We out.
Can We Keep It Real Podcast Network. Shout out to Can We Keep It Real Podcast and
nervous with butterflies in your stomach. Don't try to intimidate me. You couldn't scare me with lip. I'm spontaneous, smart, dangerous, fancy and quick. My trainer told me to work. He ain't prepared me to quit. I'm the only captain who's sailing this championship.